How did week 2 of the NFL season impact our perspective of the AFC? We're delivering our AFC Power Rankings today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins.
Hello.
And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started.
Joe, happy National beginning of discarding of priors day to you, because it's week 2 AFC Power Rankings. So I guess this is technically week 3 Power Rankings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll float around and produce this thing and get the right-hand third adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are consuming on YouTube, you can find us on YouTube wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. But 2 weeks worth of games is enough for me to start to detach myself from some things where it's like, wow, it's week 1. I don't want to be too overreactive. Get a little bit bigger sample size now.
Yeah, I feel myself warming up to that as well, where you've learned a bit about these teams. Like we talked about yesterday, kind of off air, you've gotten every team's first punch, you've gotten every team's counter punch, and now let's play football. And for some teams, that looks differently. And I think there's some injuries that are impacting the way that I'm viewing the AFC in a big way. There's been some unfortunate, I mean, come on now, with Nick Chubb last night.
Nick Chubb stuff's not fair.
Dude,
that's
awful.
So bad for him. I feel so bad.
Burrow's re-aggravated his calf after he was kind of finding himself there in the second half last week. It's not good, man. And so there's a lot that goes into this. And so after we were a little bit more holding firm last week, I'm ready to shake up a few things here today on our updated AFC Power Rankings.
Okay. So just for administrative purposes, we'll do the top 5 in the conference. Last week, the top 5 for both Joe Marino and Kyle Krabs, unsolicited, we did not compare notes before we hopped on and recorded, was the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Did you see CBS Sports did like a whole Jaguars debate? They pulled like 14 people in the studio, and it was like one person was the deciding vote at the very end on whether it was pronounced Jaguars or Jaguars.
It's Jaguar, right?
I've always said Jaguar.
I mean, I have too, but then enough pronunciation police people yelled at me and I switched.
Right. So I've tried to be conscious and switch, but they were at 5. The Jacksonville team, Duval, was at 5 in last week's Power Rankings. Joe, may I dare to ask you, how many of those teams are still in your top 5?
Oh, still in the top 5. I think 4.
I also have 4.
Yeah.
I had one team come out.
But I only have 2 teams in the same spot that they were last week.
Okay, so let's start with number 1. Kansas City Chiefs.
I still have Kansas City.
I also have Kansas City.
They haven't played their best football. There's no question about it, right? But I think getting that road win meant a lot to go into Jacksonville and win that football game, hold them to 9 points. That made me feel a lot better about their defense. And, I mean, obviously, as this team gets adjusted to having Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, their impact is only going to be greater moving forward. So I'm not moving them off yet.
I am also not moving Kansas City off the number 1 spot as well. Things have to get to the stratosphere of where the team that I had that came out of the top 5, what their situation is like how bad it would have to get for me to even consider moving Kansas City out of 1 this early in the season.
And the good news is all these teams pretty much underneath Kansas City, they're going to play them. We're going to find out, right? It's going to take care of itself.
2, 3, yeah.
It's going to take care of itself.
That's right. Now, number 2. I have a new number 2.
As do I.
The new number 2 for me is the Buffalo Bills.
That's really, what I have as well.
Really impressive bounce back win for Buffalo against the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, there was the concerns with the turnovers and Josh Allen in week 1 against the Jets defense. Jets just seemed to play him well defensively, or at least in the last, 3 games. It's been pretty competitive as far as the defense against Josh Allen.
Last 3, but I'd go back even to 21. I think really the last 5.
Okay.
They've played Josh pretty tough.
So Salas played him well.
Yeah.
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 So obviously you get the bounce back from that 38 points, take care of business. You hope you don't lament a divisional loss in round 1 in a goofy game, but there's so much roadmap ahead of you that I still feel like you look at that division. They've had so much success against Miami that after week 2, I can't justify putting Miami in front of them.
See it similarly. I think the Bills bounced back exactly how they needed to. It wasn't a close game. Josh played really good, smart football, but still did dynamic Josh Allen things. And I think going back to that week 1 game, I studied it in depth, obviously. They had a Josh Allen problem. The rest of the operation was really good. And I think Josh just tried to put on a show on Monday Night Football against a defense that it wasn't time to put a show on. And I think he corrected week over week. So I have them at 2. But my number 3 team's nipping on the heels, and they'll play in about 14 days. Yeah. Miami at 3.
I also have Miami at 3. They're another team that has, in spite of all of this, not played their best football.
Yeah, you and I had that conversation, yeah.
Just the game on Sunday night directly left 10 points out there in scoring 24 against New England. Tua trips on his drop on 3rd and goal on their first score. Jalen Waddle was wide open on a hook route. So that's 4 points. The blocked field goal, and then the missed field goal. So just 3 plays tangibly, you left that out there. Never mind, Tua made one kind of silly decision trying to break the Patriots back with a deep shot down the field on a ball that was a little late, hung up in the air, and got intercepted. And they were running the ball at will late in the game. So obviously the offensive turnovers and miscues against the Chargers and the run defense. They're another team like Kansas City, I think Buffalo probably had the best, most complete game out of any of the top 3 teams with the game against the Raiders.
That's probably fair. Yeah.
But there's a lot. If you're Kansas City, Miami, there's a lot to like about what other meat's still left on the bone out of this top 3 group for games that you played so far.
One of my new favorite weekly discoveries is going to be, how do opposing defenses choose to play Miami? Right? It's going to be this really interesting dynamic. You saw the Patriots get kind of creative, and I know you could probably speak way more to this. You've studied the all-22, but like with the 5 safety sets and really just trying to force throws outside, and then Tua's like, okay, I'll throw the ball outside. I can do that too. And they ran the ball, the big explosive run. How much can they lean into that? How do they blend patience with what they want to do down the field? Like, this has got to be just an absolute joy to get to see that schematic just punch and counter punch throughout this season, right? It's happened through 2 games, and it's not going to stop.
Yeah, because I thought the Chargers chess match defensively against Miami was really fun, and then the Patriots
man coverage. Yeah. Come on, Brandon Staley, brother, what are you doing?
And then the Patriots rolled out the Iowa State 3 safety Big 12 defense to start the game. We're going to go tight front, 3 safeties. At middle safeties, effectively going to be like Tampa 2 type player but he's from playing top down instead of bottom up. So he's trying to rob the stuff over the middle, trying to defend that RPO glance route that they love to run so much. Miami says, okay, we'll run between the tackles. We'll run power. We'll run downhill at you, because that's the big weak spot for that defense is exactly that. Miami ran for 140 yards.
Vance Joseph up next, and then Sean McDermott. So we're obviously paying attention.
A lot of fun.
Number four,
the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I got them up there. That big jump for me. They climbed 4 spots, or 2-0.
Like, spots for me as well.
Beat Cincy. That's notable. I mean, beat Houston in week 1. Lamar, I think, showed a lot in the passing game last week. Obviously overcame some injuries.
It sounds like they got some good news on the Marcus Williams front too.
Yeah.
He's going to work on. He's not going on IR. He's bypassing surgery. They'll get Linderbaum back. We'll see Ronnie Stanley. I know that durability is always kind of a thing there, but they have a chance to get some reinforcements too. And you got a road win in the division against Cincinnati. It's huge for them.
Big, yeah.
The 5th spot had a really hard time with number 5.
I did too, but okay. I have Jacksonville.
I left Jacksonville at 5.
Yeah, same.
Which is the same thing that you did. Obviously a quality loss to Kansas City. I have a feeling they will lament some of the missed opportunities in that game. I think if the end zone was 1 foot deeper, or if the field was 6 inches wider, Jacksonville probably scores 24, 27 points in the game as compared to getting 9. So they were real close, but that close only counts in horseshoes and a few other things, but not on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to week 1, they didn't necessarily have a convincing win against the Colts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got Jacksonville's a team last year that kind of woke up as the season moved along. Benefit of the doubt right now. I think they're a good football team, but I reluctantly kept them at 5, but it really kind of had more to do with the next cluster of teams that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But first, everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind. So you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure that you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medical delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using our promo code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Folks, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, which I love. Kyle, you said before the Patriots game, go over on the Waddle receiving yards. I did that, and I won some money.
You can
do that, too. Check out the player props, the over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Things you love to see Dolphins over props hitting. Or projection.
I enjoy them. I enjoy the props. That's my favorite thing about FanDuel is the props. Like, something like, what was the backdoor cover?
The Rams.
The Rams, right. It's like, come on.
Kicking
Could you imagine losing money for that?
Yeah, they're down 10 points, kick a field goal as time expires just to lose by 7.
I had another one on the Thursday night game. It was the over for, it was Devonta Smith. I parlayed like yards and a touchdown. Yeah. He hit the bomb late in the game. And I was very excited about that. So check out FanDuel.
Okay, so our top 5, we are in lockstep. We did not compare notes. We both moved the Bills and Dolphins up 1 spot to 2 and 3 behind
Homers.
And then we have the Ravens jumping 4 spots to 4. Jacksonville staying put at 5 with a quality loss, if there was such a thing, to Kansas City in week 2. The 6th spot for me.
This gets messy. This 6 through 10 is messy, bro.
I got the Bengals.
I do too, but
so obviously it's not great at 0-2 and Joe Burrow being hurt. Can't drop him too much because they did do it last year.
Yeah.
It feels a little different, especially because Joe Burrow, now there's a big question with Joe Burrow, and like that impacts Joe Burrow. It does impact his style of play. Now, he's not a guy that's out here like Josh Allen running up 700 rushing yards in a season, but nevertheless, mobility and being able to get off his spot and extend plays at times is a big part of Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. So that's the concern. I think they'll get right in a lot of other ways. I think defensively they'll be okay. But how long does this linger for Joe? That's the question. But I look at the teams that are in this block. Cincinnati's comfortably the best team. I can't put too much of weight into 2 losses, just being 2 losses. So Cincinnati 6.
Yeah, I see it the same way, and that's a lot of why. I mean, not that the quarterback's hurt, but my number 7 team is the Chargers. I have the Bengals at 6 as well. My 7 team is the Chargers. It feels weird having a couple of 0-2 teams there, but based on the talent level that these teams have, it's hard not to, especially with a lot of crazy uncertainty with what's after them. I mean, the Chargers with 2 games where they probably feel like they had a good chance to win them. But from a talent perspective, I think they deserve to be number 7, in my opinion.
From a talent perspective, they do.
You have a team higher than the Chargers? Are they not 7 for you?
I have 2 teams higher than the Chargers.
Oh, wow.
I'm real concerned about Brandon Staley. Did you see him getting all short and snippy in the post-game press conference?
Getting pissy, man.
That can go bad real quick. That element of this can go sideways.
I'm very curious. Who's the first team that you have above the Chargers? So now we're getting different here.
One of the 2 teams I have above them, I have this team in the 8th spot, is the team that just beat the Chargers, the Titans.
Man, I can't do it.
I know I can't do it either, but it's this. The AFC field, all of these teams. We saw what Pittsburgh look like, -7 yards, winning the football game in the 4th quarter, 9 first downs against Cleveland.
2 defensive touchdowns helps.
Right. Cleveland themselves and Deshaun Watson's play. Obviously, the Nick Chubb injury is devastating for Nick Chubb. It's devastating for the Browns. It changes their football team. The Titans, the Jets losing Aaron Rodgers, Denver Broncos,
it's a messy situation.
It's a mess. So I'm going to take the team that has a win head-to-head over the Chargers, and I got to put them in front of the Chargers because the Chargers still look like a coaching mess right now. The team I have 7 is the New England Patriots.
All right, we're going to be real different this week.
I get it. I get it. They're a bunch of slow burn, stale guys on the perimeter. Bill Belichick's going to take Pop Davis out of the game because he fumbled on one of his 2 touches.
Only guy that can friggin' move in the receiving corps.
We used all our skill players. We used everybody. Devontae had a productive day. Meanwhile, nobody has more than 10 yards. Nobody has more than 9 yards per catch. They sit here and pee on everybody and tell them that it's rain, that everybody had a productive day. I get it, but the defense is really good. Special teams, they're always going to play close to the vest. They should not have been in that game. They pulled the right strings late in the game to get themselves in position. Mac Jones's splits in game-winning situations in the 4th quarter is terrible. The schedule's going to lighten up. They played 2 teams that we think are really, really good. In a jumbled dumpster fire mess, I will take the high floor team and put them at 7. That's the New England Patriots.
All right. I don't even know how to continue this conversation. Let me just give you my 6 through 10, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So I have the Bengals at 6. I have the Chargers at 7.
Yep.
At 8, reluctantly, I have the Browns. Defensively, I kind of like what they have. I mean, Nick Chubb's a huge, huge loss. Watson has to. I mean,
don't say he has to play better.
I know. I texted you what I texted you last night. I said Deshaun has had enough time by now to relearn how to play quarterback, right? Like he's had enough time.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't love it, but I feel good about their defense. And if they can run the football, I know that's harder without Chubb.
And Jack Conklin.
Right. Like I said, it's messy. It's messy. I have the Jets at 9.
Oh, brother.
I don't know. They could play defense.
And so can the Patriots.
But
so can the Patriots.
I think the Jets were foolish to not incorporate their backs enough in that Dallas game. I think Dallas is one of the 5 best teams in the league, maybe one of the best 3.
Yes.
So road game, first game without Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think they have to relearn their formula. And I have the Patriots at 10.
You see,
Bengals, Chargers, Browns, Jets,
getting faded in that backfield from a splits perspective already.
I mean, how do you even say it? Breece Hall had 4 rushes or something?
From
Against Dallas?
From Snap's perspective.
That's going to need to be their engine. Hall and Cook.
Okay, so you didn't shake this up too much beyond Cincinnati falling 4 spots. Cleveland drops 2, but you have the Chargers in the same spot you did last week. You have the Jets in the same spot you did last week. You have the Patriots in the same spot you did last week.
Yeah.
Okay. I went 6 Cincinnati, 7 New England Patriots, 8 Tennessee Titans, 9 LA Chargers, 10 Pittsburgh Steelers. And it is kind of neat to see, okay, you have comfortably the best team. This was my argument and thought process. Comfortably the best team overall, resume, talent, et cetera, Cincinnati. I'll put them at the top. 2 high floor teams and how they're coached and how they play in defense in New England and Tennessee at 7 and 8. Chargers, super talented, super concerned about the coaching staff. And then 10, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The depth of the AFC might not be what we thought it was entering the season, right? I mean, we're getting 6 through 10 and just palms to the air trying to sort this thing out.
You could put, I think 7 through 10 could be any order of teams. And like you have a legitimate argument to make based off of what we know right now.
All right. Well, now we get to shift our attention to the bottom 6 or the bottom 5. I don't know. Not
bottom
a math guy.
Whatever
it is. Bottom 6 is coming up here in just a moment. But first, you got to check out PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the funnest. It's the best. It's the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. The format is awesome. It's just you versus the numbers. I love this. It's not you against thousands of other players, including pros, including sharks. It's just you versus the numbers. All you do, you select 2 or more players, you pick more or less of their projected stats, and you place your entry. That's it. Doesn't take long. Picks can be made in under a minute. When you win, the withdrawals are super easy and super quick. And I love watching football, but I love it even more when I have a PrizePicks entry going into games because it just makes it that much more exciting. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our promo code LockedOnNFL. That'll get you a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
All right. So now we go to 11. I have the New York Jets at 11. I know that's a team that you included in your top 10. I think the running game potential, the defense obviously sets a certain floor of expectation for any game that you play. Man, oh man, that offensive line is reeling coming off that performance against Dallas. And I get it. It's Dallas, right? So I understand why, but I don't get the warm and fuzzies about the offensive line performance thus far, in addition to the quarterback change. So that's why they're a little bit lower down in this pecking order of teams that have really good defenses for me. I got 3 of them in a row. I go Pittsburgh, New York, and Cleveland. And I get the Jets at 11.
Steelers at 11 for me.
Okay.
I mean,
same spot you had them last week.
Yeah, I have them at the same spot. I mean, Matt Canada is just not a good offensive coordinator. And the loyalty that Pittsburgh has is sometimes really good and sometimes it's really bad. And I feel that way about Matt Canada and his continuation with this offense.
9 first downs last night.
Good defense or bad offense? I don't know. Like they don't have Deontay Johnson right now. That's going to be an issue. Is Pickens the type of separator that's going to be worthy of those targets?
No, case in point, he caught one against zone coverage over the middle, opened up his strides and ran away from it.
Najee Harris is, cerebral back, but is he a difference maker? Does he have explosiveness?
Can I ask you a serious question? If Najee Harris ran a 40-yard dash today, what's he run?
4.8.
That's the number in my head.
Yeah.
It's so jarring to see the difference in athleticism with him and Warren. And I get Najee's better in protection. Najee's more powerful. Najee probably has better vision and decision making. So it's like this. It's almost like you have two extreme. If you could put them together, you'd have a really good back. But instead, it was hard watching Najee. I mean, that one he peeled back against the grain last night, I'm like, oh, this is a big hitter. And he got like 9 yards.
the grass disappears slowly.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So just concerned about the offense. Obviously, defensively, even without Hayward, they were very impressive. We'll see what the news is with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Was ruled out last night with a chest injury. That may change things as well for them if he's going to miss extended period of time. But a team that we're both a little leery on right now because they sit at 10th and 11th respectively for our ranks. I'm going to guess you have the Titans at 12.
I do.
Okay. So that's the biggest team that we're different on.
We'll see with them. I mean, I think it's probably fair to say that they play a high floor brand of football. I worry about it as the season elongates and what it looks like. Now, they might be able to just kind of feast in their own division a little bit. They're just not they just don't seem that dynamic to me.
I would agree with you. There's an attrition concern there too. I don't think they're a particularly deep roster.
Right.
And they're already without Skoronski like this past week. That's the last area you can afford to take losses. Now, Skoronski, it's not a long-term thing, I don't believe. Yeah. But I think just playing high floor, quality win at home against LA, I was impressed that they held when they did and they won that football game. So I put them kind of in a mini tier under New England for teams that it's like you're not dynamic offensively. You have some athletic limitations, but the way you approach game planning and game management is you're probably going to be a tough out every single week.
Yeah. So bottom 4 time?
The bottom 4 time. I have the Denver Broncos at 13.
Okay, so you have Denver above Vegas.
Yes.
I'm giving the Raiders the benefit of the doubt because they beat Denver in Denver.
That's fair. I had the Raiders move up 3 spots for beating Denver to go right in the same tier with Denver last week. I think the way Las Vegas got handled versus Denver losing at least close football games was enough for me to say, I still think Denver's a more all-around talented team. You see the Sean Payton stuff with the huddle and wristbands and all that already?
No, I missed this.
Oh, my goodness. He's talking about procedurally getting out of the huddle, too much verbiage. How do we simplify? Got to wear a wristband, which obviously was kind of a thing last year with Russ and Nathaniel Hackett.
What's the big deal with the wristbands? Like, why are they all of a sudden a problem? Tom Brady wore a wristband for 20,000 years.
You have to ask Russ.
I don't get it. Was there another coach?
I believe Russ ended up wearing one last year, though.
Yeah, with the Baltimore situation, right? Wasn't that a thing where they didn't want Lamar to have a wristband? Or
Monken was like, he's never had to go without wearing a wristband and actually know the calls.
It's a big freaking deal about that.
I guess in theory, you're learning a new offense, right? Would the argument be, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but from a coach's perspective, would the argument be if you can't hear parts of the call and internalize and understand how to say it back, then you inherently don't understand the full concept of what we're trying to do, and you don't understand the play to the depth that you need to execute it at a high level?
I think it would be best if you could.
Correct.
But it's not a fatal flaw to have the wristband in case.
I agree. So I think that's from Baltimore's perspective why they wanted to get Lamar off a wristband. But of course, I don't know how much it makes me feel better to tell Russ to read a wristband if that is inherently an issue with what they're trying to do offensively right now, because you got to simplify it, which means you got to give him less answers at the line of scrimmage, less extra stuff. You in theory would become easier to defend because there's less that you're giving yourself from a flexibility standpoint at the line of scrimmage.
So Raiders and Broncos we have flipped at 13 and 14.
Yes, and that's the same as you had them. I thought you said you mixed this up a little bit.
I did.
Yeah, three big movers that only move more than one spot. Because I'm going to assume you have Colts over Texans.
Well, of course.
I also have Colts over Texans.
The Colts look like they're a decent bad team.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good compliment. And obviously handle their business in Houston last week with those white end. Do you see those white end zones for the Texans? That was kind of goofy, right?
No, I didn't see that.
Check them out. It's like white. They're like white with blue letters.
Any time for that game last week.
I caught little pieces of it here and there, you know.
So in turn, we are lockstep through 6, both of us. We are lockstep with teams in the bottom 4. We just have Denver flip-flopped. So our top 6 and bottom 4 are effectively the exact same.
The mess is in the middle.
The mess is in the middle. And you got Patriots 10, I got them 7. You got Titans 12, I got them 8. You got Chargers 7, I got them 9. You got Steelers 11, I got them 10. You got Jets 9, I got them 11. You got Browns 8, I got them 12. So the middle is Picasso right now. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Can't wait to do the NFC, which I've already stacked my NFC Power Rankings.
Same, I did it too.
They're very different again. I would argue I could tell you there's only 4 teams in the same spot on the NFC side of things for me. How's that for a tease?
That's a good tease. I like it.
So we are moving and shaking. NFC Conference Power Rankings for Week 3 coming up tomorrow here on Locked On NFL Scouting. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Make it a good one. We'll be back and talk to you all again tomorrow.